We'll test the sound. Do you hear anything? Is the sound on? So we'll see. It's good. You're
We're
good,
ready.
Mayor.
All right, welcome to the February 4th, 2026 North Logan City Council meeting. We will excuse Buzzy tonight, who is away on work. Let's see, we're gonna have Kenny lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Emily will say our prayer.
All right, please rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our dear gracious, kind Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for the day that we have been given. We thank Thee for the opportunity we have to live and work together in North Logan. Please help us, Heavenly Father, as we discuss the issues facing our city, that we will go in with hearts ready to make the best decisions for our constituents. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right, I would entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Emily,
Second?
second by Kenny. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. All right, and then we have recognition of our exemplary staff member. Let me pull that up. All right, tonight that is Bridger Crane. This is nominated by Colby Law from our Streets Department. He says, Bridger has been a great addition to our Streets Department. With his great attitude, he's become a strong leader on our team and never shirks from a task. Whenever there's snow in the forecast, Bridger has taken the on-call responsibility seriously and is someone I can rely on morning and night to ensure public safety on our city roads. Bridger is exactly the type of employee that we want here at North Logan City. So that's a great endorsement. We appreciate our streets department's waiting in the wing for a potential snowstorm that we haven't yet realized. So join me in giving a hand to Bridger.
Mayor, I was going to let you know there's one other recognition there. They're going to start a departmental recognition.
Oh, cool.
If you just want to look at that, it's right below there.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. This is the city office staff were nominated by Colby Law. The office staff are the glue that helps each of the different departments of the city, whether it's paying bills, paying employees, coordinating utility payments, handling calls from the public. They are always there to aid wherever needed. Sometimes their constant efforts go unnoticed, but they're truly valued by all other departments and the general public. I'll add my commendation to this. That's who I work with the most is our city office staff, and they're always so great, and we're lucky to have them be our face with the city. So join me in giving them a hand as well. All right, let's move on to our public safety official reports. Chief Goodrich, will you start tonight?
All right, I wanted to, on this meeting, kind of go over where we ended up in January on that. So for total in January, we had 474 calls. 359 of those were North Locals on that. For priority versus non-priority, we had 164 of those that were priority. It equates to about a 46% on that. So our serious calls are going up more and more. Of note, with that priority type calls, we had 21 accidents. We had 12 child abuse investigations that we worked. We had 7 domestic disputes, 2 DUIs, 5 frauds, 48 medical emergencies, and 1 rape investigation that we made the arrest on today on that. So our serious stuff is going up. As far as traffic stops, we're at 394 for the year, which is also up compared to 2025. Our calls are also up compared to January of 2025. So there we ended with 448. So we're up about 26 more than what we were last year at this time. So a little bit more Don't know if it's in the weather or what, but we're seeing some kind of weird things going on with that. So this is just the brief kind of where we are. We have our police commission meeting tomorrow that we're going to go over the detailed 2025 report on where things were and some of the challenges that we had and some of the successes as well. So we're excited to present that as well.
Any questions for Chief?
Chief, I'm sorry. Of the 474 calls, how many were North Logan, you said?
359.
Wow. Okay.
So a lot of
Oh,
calls
yeah.
coming in
Yeah.
with that. So.
Don't point that out tomorrow, Kenny.
I
not
will
the-
not. Yeah, I just wanted to get clarification here. Good thing,
Okay.
good thing this isn't being recorded.
Just
Fantastic.
Yep.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, Chief.
Thank
See
you,
ya.
guys.
All right, Chief Thompson.
Okay, hello. So the biggest thing I wanted to point out with the beginning of this year, probably in a long, long time, the federal government's changed our fire reporting system, and it is a big deal. It would probably be the equivalent of Buzzy switching over IHC to a new platform. This is a nationwide deal, and so I think one thing we want to do with our new reporting, it's things are going to look a little different. With the new what they call the nearest system, is the categories of calls. So our incident types, for example, on this sheet, they've changed the categories. They've simplified them. They've made less of them, and so it's going to look a little different. The other thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be giving this report a little facelift as well as the monthly report. So the data will still be good. We'll still break down your call types here in North Logan, and we're just looking. We're experiencing a whole a whole new world, as you can imagine, with the reporting. So we're working on that new look. Should be ready for hopefully the February report. We still have problems with our data uploading and how it's working, but each week they send us a patch for the software. So we'll get through it, but it has been quite a deal for the beginning of the year here. I think the other things to report, I think I just wanted to make sure I mentioned this group. We'll get a flyer out for Assistant Chief Humphrey's retirement party. That's going to be on Monday, I believe, March 16th. So
Did
we'll
you
let
say
you know around
February
11.
16th?
March
March.
16th,
Okay.
yeah. So we'll get that out. Just didn't want to forget that to make sure we honor the Krager. He's been huge in this city for the fire service and prevention. So the other thing, yeah, it looks like we finished calls. We're just up about 4% last year over 2024. And I'm excited for you to see the new look. It's simplified. There may be some questions on the report, and we can go through those. But we're still figuring out some of those new categories that we're looking at. And I think other than that, other than, I'll let the mayor report in on the district news. That's been a super hot topic. Lots of things going on there.
Chief and I are chatting all the time.
Yeah.
He loves it.
Yeah, I do. But yeah, I mean, that's moving along. We'll just see where that goes. But otherwise, in terms of your operations, things are super smooth. So unless there's questions, that would be my report.
Any questions for Chief? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Let's get a review of strategic directives and action items from Ellen.
Thank you, Mayor. Jumping down through, I'll go over the community center at the end of the meeting. Taxation issues and zip code, to the name, the discussions that we've had. We sent out several emails initially to the tax commission. They responded to one or two of those emails. And then there's been kind of radio silence. So we'll reach back out again. I've received a few different members of the tax commission, their emails that we can reach out to. So I'm going to reach out to them in addition. So we actually have these questions answered that we're going through right now. The master signage and wayfinding, we're just finalizing the contract with them. And then Mayor will probably go over some of the rec center progress at the end of the meeting. Water, Jordan will go over several of these items. Things are going well. Sewer, the lining of sewer lines throughout the city, manholes and the lines themselves in areas where we have groundwater and infiltration. This past year, we did receive a report that we're the only city in Cache Valley that had a reduction in total discharge to our sewer. That's with population growth, with additional business growth. We still reduced our overall discharge this past year, which means that what Zach is doing in lining those sewer lines and manholes is working. And the return on investment for that is phenomenal. So hats off to Zach and everything that they're doing by going through and monitoring those areas. And then they'll update the sewer master plan. They're working with Sunrise Engineering on that. Streets, they're just going through and they're going through their 5-year plan, 7-year plan of surface treatments. They're very aggressive on that every year. And Colby's just getting the bidding and the scheduling for that for the year, along with all of his other projects coming up. Stormwater, they were still working on the stormwater master plan. Engineering, we'll probably talk about this in the next meeting, but there's a lot of acquisition taking place for 200 East right of way. Sunrise has been aggressive in working with those property owners. They've been great to work with along 200 East, and just working with them to make sure that when the project does come up, that everything goes well. Jumping down through parks, they still are working on the north end of Elk Ridge, and a lot of prep for this year for a lot of the different projects that they're working on. Trails, we are working on finalizing a lot of those property acquisitions and alignments through North Llewellyn City. There's 4 or 5 property owners through North Llewellyn City that have all been good to work with, so we're just finalizing those items with Sunrise. They're kind of the engineer that's working with all of the different entities. So North Logan, Hyde Park, the county, and Smithfield for this grant that will cover all the costs for that trail installation. And then the canal as well. We have a grant that goes from here to 2200 North along the Twin Ditch Canal. And we just need to finalize those. They gave us the documents. We'll get with the mayor. She's been working with some of the property owners, and we'll just get them to sign those documents, formalize those easements along the canal, which should be great. That grant should pay for that. And then 1600 East and 1900 North paths, we have submitted for several different grants, and we're just waiting to hear back. Some of those grants are just design and right-of-way acquisition, but we'll work through that at that time. Recreation, they have several things taking place right now. Ladies paint and sip. You just think of anything that they can come up with, and they will host a program associated with that. There's a Sweethearts Daddy-Daughter dance coming up. Several things. And then after that's royalty, but they still have basketball taking place. They'll move into soccer and the other large programs that they run. Facilities, they basically have Google Fiber to almost all of our facilities throughout the community. That's reduced our payment by several $100s a month across the board, and increased speeds along with that. So it's good to work with Google Fiber on that at this time. Cemetery, they are still working on the designs to finalize that shed construction, and they'll push that forward. Community development, Scott will talk about some of these things at the end of the meeting, but they do have a few developments coming up in the next couple meetings. Economic development, we are finalizing a few things. We are working with a few businesses right now, and we'll go over and we'll update those probably in the coming meetings. Going down through, the treasurer has got final site working. That's kind of just the updated parlance. And we haven't had the ability to update that in about 5 years, so that'll be great. So we have new residents that move in. They will be able to receive those messages geographically. So when we select an area, that's the one thing that's been missing. If we select a neighborhood in town, if their water's been shut off because of a leak or something else, we can notify just a specific geographic area, which was always the intention there.
Alan, do you know, like with that system, is there any way that people can just sign themselves up, or is it always going to need to run through Mary?
They can partially sign themselves up, but to make it more secure, they just have to call the city office because they just update that contact information in their utilities, which will constantly update it every time there's any change.
Okay.
Great question, though, because that is a common thing that comes up. The other thing that they can do, though, is if they want multiple. So if multiple individuals in a household want to sign up, they can do that. A lot of people sign up for their utilities 10, 20, 30 years ago. Some of them even have landlines, which they will not receive any messages at that time because they're all discontinued, or the vast majority. But if they sign up as an additional spouse or a child that lives in their home, they can do that to receive those notifications. And so it's good to let the individuals know that. It's in the newsletter every month, but we just want to emphasize that to the general public that they can receive those messages. Jumping down through, thanks to Scott for putting together the budgets and the budget presentations, and also the updates to the Muni code. That's our online municipal with all of the endless updates that Scott has given him, Scott Perks, um, through that long process of the general plan. Library, they've ordered tables and chairs. We'll go over this at the end of the meeting, but they are getting ready to be able to reserve the community center portion. While they're still operating in a quasi temporary function through the elbow of the new area with the books. So as of that department to keep things running, their Jane Austen event is full, and they're trying to open up more spots to see how many they can get to that event. It's a really well put together event. Thanks to police and fire. Chief presented several things regarding the e-bike and motorcycle. They'll probably report on in the coming weeks. I put some things that he gave us into that folder. So thanks to Chief. Thanks to Chief Thompson as well for going over that and keeping us up to date regarding Craig's retirement and everything else. I jumped through several items. I don't know if there's anything else specific. We are trying to tie in a better fashion the goals and strategic directives from the City Council into those action items. And I think we can improve on that each meeting. We'll try to do that a little bit better.
Yeah, thanks for taking us through that, Alan. I think it's really helpful to kind of have it contextualized that way. So, okay, any questions for Alan on that? Okay, then let's move on to our consent items. We have our January 21st, 2026 meetings. Appreciate Emily for taking over as mayor. And then Kenny, Mark, and Larry. Appreciate you guys being there. Are there any changes to this, or I would accept a motion to approve these consent items?
It looks, looks like line 13, Mark needs to be crossed out of there. He can't be excused and be in presence. at the
Oh,
same
yeah,
time.
he gets excused. Shoot. Do you mind making that change, Scott? Okay, anything else? Mark, you almost got in there with full credit. I know high school students that would envy that ability, so. All right, then I would accept a motion to accept these consent items.
I move that we approve the consent items.
Motion by Emily with the aforementioned changes.
Yes.
Motion by Emily.
I'll second.
Second by Larry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Let's move on to our action items. The first is consider an ordinance to amend municipal code 2-200 classification, 3-201 regular meetings, 3-302 notice, 3-401.1 city administrator, 3-402 absence of mayor, 3-403 no vote except in tie, 3-404 veto, 3-104 quorum defined, 3-105 compelling attendance at meetings, 3-207 business to be conducted only in an open meeting.
You want a
Scott,
little
Alan?
background?
Yeah, that'd be
on
great,
this?
because this looks like quite a coup potentially.
Yeah, this looks like a lot. It's actually not. So thanks to citizens who have pointed out things when we basically adopted code in the 80s, state basically gave us a long list of code and we adopted it at that time. Over the past few years, we've noticed errors in the code, or citizens have noticed errors in the code. So thanks to them for pointing those things out. Council, Scott, we've gone through this and we've basically just compiled all of them. And the ones that were just related to sections 3 and sections 2 of the municipal code, it's basically administrative items. What we notice is there's a word that's different now in the state code or something else. What I need to clarify is that the city is following current state code. We just haven't noticed that our city code lagged behind a little bit. So hats off to Scott Bennett as he went through here. A lot of these sections you'll notice, instead of correcting the item completely inside of our code, it just references state code. So as the state makes these minor changes here and there, like a word here, a word there, instead of changing that word in our code, we're just going to reference state code because that's what we adopted and that's what we follow. And so as you go through here, the only ones that really aren't that way, this 3-201 is just a clarification that as we adopted that schedule coming up, which is a tentative schedule as is, we need to make it more clear. Our current code says we'll have 2 meetings no matter what every month and all these other things. It basically just brings it into line with the way that the city council actually functions with meetings and upcoming tentative meeting schedule. So nothing really substantive about that. It's just a clarification so that we are doing what we say we're going to do. The rest of these literally just referencing state code. You can see right here. Here's a perfect example. Just see UCA section 10-3B-202. That's the change.
Do I have veto power or not?
Yes, according to the state's regulations, which is what you follow right now. And so yes, great question, Mayor, going through here. And so the only problem with that was it just references an old outdated state code, and so we'll just update that. Again, these are intended to just, as you go through here, it lists every single one as you go down through. There are several, but the vast majority of them are simply just saying, we're going to abide by state code. It's too busy to change this every 2 to 3 years when they pass 500 bills.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay. Any questions on this from the council?
But do we need to update the references to the state code appropriately, or?
that's what this does.
Right, but we'll have to do that every time the legislature passes 500 more bills, or no?
No, they should. They usually, yes, in some cases, but normally they just leave the code as the state code reference the same, and they changed it. It's just over since 1989 until now they have changed a
Okay.
few of those where they. So we just have to be on our toes when
But
they are
hopefully
changing
a
those.
little less than if we were to like set it in our code and then the state code, if it like contradicts, then you wouldn't like, it's probably better for us to have an outdated reference than it is to have code that conflicts with state code.
Very good point, Mayor. I hadn't thought of that. Great point.
So we
I-
need to
I-
put that with everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you make a motion, just include that reference in it. That'd be
Meaning like,
great.
so if the numbers change, that it would kind of take care of that.
So you would say UCA section XYZ and as amended, or just as amended? Okay.
That'd be great.
I really like that. Anything we can do.
It's not perfect. Just again, we're just trying to just keep up with state code changes, and we always just want to abide by those, which we are. But this just brings our code in line with what we're actually doing. That'd be great.
Sounds good. Any other input on this? Then I'd entertain a motion. Oh, Russ, why don't you come up? We'll. Yeah, so it's 24 hours and that's according to OPMA. Yeah, that's a minimum. We typically notice it far more than that, but you have to have at least 24. No, public hearings are different. I think
Public,
that's,
sorry, depending on
go
the
ahead.
public hearing, this is why we need to reference the state code, which is what we want to do because they change it every so often. And Russell's bringing up a good point. A lot of public hearings have been changed to 14 days to 10 days. So the vast majority are 10 days. Some are still 14 days. And so those that are 14, we abide by that. Some that are 10, we abide by that. And usually we try to err on the side of caution by even going further out than that. Case in point is that there's probably a public hearing coming up at the next meeting. And that was noticed early this week. So that would be like 17 days in advance that we noticed that one. But yes, great point that we do need to abide by those.
But certainly the public hearing requirements are much more stringent than, for example, just a normal business meeting where there is no public hearing. So, but we're always going to be governed by OPMA, Open and Public Meetings Act. So that's going to override our code. Like we couldn't, for example, say no notice is needed. We'll meet whenever we want, that kind of thing. So. Okay, sorry, I can't remember. Did I get a motion on that?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm ready to motion unless anybody else has more to say. Okay, I move that we approve an ordinance to amend the municipal code as detailed in our action items with the caveat that we will add, I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna say this right. How do you want us to phrase it? So we're saying, say that phrase one more time that
Well,
we
let
were
me
saying.
just ask, do you like the idea of having a catch-all clause at the end?
I do, I do.
Then
I would say, sorry, just to point out, I like the as amended at the end of each one because this
Me
doesn't
too.
catch all of the different items.
We have other ones in our code that we'll inevitably discover that need to be updated. So I would say in each individual ordinance, we
individual
say
will put as
this
amended.
code as amended.
Fine.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that would work
So
out.
just to make sure, I want to make sure that I'm doing this right. If I say that I would like to amend the municipal code as we detail, we have like, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 5 different codes that we're amending, and we want to add the phrase as amended to each of them. Am I,
Each reference to
to
Utah
each
code.
reference to Utah
Code.
code? Okay,
Okay.
do we get it?
Is that enough of a motion? Okay, so motion
That says
by
yes, so
Emily.
I
Do
did it perfectly.
do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mark. Any further discussion on this? Okay, all in favor?
I.
Aye.
Any opposed? Veto. Just kidding. No, that motion passes unanimously. All right, let's move on to consider approval of a resolution and agreement regarding the lease of a street sweeper. Is this going to be Jordan or Alan?
I can present a little bit and then Jordan just fill in the gaps. This is kind of unusual for the city council because you approve the budget and authorize the leases with the budget at the beginning of the year. This is a stipulation from this particular company. They're a nationwide company, and so they would like this provision having, because some states require this, having the city council approve and authorize through resolution this lease of a sweeper, along with the city attorney. And so that's the general gist of it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We switched from a different leasing company to this one because the other one was not as good. So
What year is the street sweeper that we're changing in for the new one?
it was 10 years old.
Okay. Is that anticipated lifetime for a
Yeah,
street
it's about
sweeper?
6 years is
Okay.
when you start to lose money pretty fast. So
Just due to maintenance?
yeah, yep,
Okay.
you have to repair
Wear and tear.
so much. It spends more time in the shop than it does on the road.
It's tough too because the state requires, the state kind of pass the buck to cities to run the stormwater department. They're supposed to run it, but they just say cities run it for us. And then they mandate that we purchase sweepers, and it becomes kind of pricey to do that. And so this is one of those requirements where we have to operate our street sweeper and operate it in an iterative approach so often, and then record every time that we do operate that street sweeper.
Okay.
Is this a dollar for dollar increase to the budget? Or is there some component of the existing budget that will be used to cover this?
It's a component of the existing budget, but that's a good point. I don't know if there requires any change whatsoever, though.
It does not. It was budgeted for.
Thank you.
Then we'll make sure we should just point that out in the streets budget, which will come up in about a month when we do that budget presentation to just show you exactly where that lease comes out.
It'll be in the stormwater budget.
Stormwater.
Yep.
Do
Thank
we
you.
just
Jordan.
just build that up over the 6-year period of when we anticipate having to buy a new one, or we just
So yeah, we do. So currently how we've done it in the past is we lease it each year, lease to own, and then we trade the old one in for credit towards the new one.
Yeah, I wonder, like, on the police commission, we looked at the lease versus buy and own option for the fleet vehicles there, and maybe something to explore here too.
Yeah, we've looked into it. The hard part is going with that one for many years to build up the capital. Because like Alan said, we run it into the ground and we use it so much that
Yeah,
it's hard to.
so it is like a lease to own thing
That
where
gap.
we
Yes.
And
actually do
probably
own it.
not as robust of a market for street sweepers.
That's what we were
Very
gonna say. Like
correct.
normally a
Right.
cruiser,
Not a Toyota.
There's only about 2 manufacturers in the state.
the police department has the cruiser swap in and how to increase that value, and I think James Allen has really been instrumental in that. They
Yeah,
have that down to a science.
yeah,
These, it's you literally have to analyze it each time. Like, are you losing money? What do we need to do? And so, yeah, those questions that you just brought up, Jordan has to analyze that every time with Colby and make sure and that we're doing it in the most efficient way possible. That's the same with the backhoes and large dump trucks. Those are, again, not as prevalent as a cruiser.
yeah, okay.
How long did you say the lifespan was? Was it set 10
So-
years? Roughly?
No, so we run them about 10.
Okay. And so you
At
have,
about year 6, we start to really dump money.
so that was my question. It's a 6-year deal. So you have that 4-year
Yep, where we
space
start to build
either
back
build
up.
up a reserve and or spend a lot of money on repairs.
Yeah, that's where on the last one, we were able to stay underneath the cost to renew the lease until about when we hit year 10, it started to climb to where it was more expensive than leasing.
Thanks
So.
for watching. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Point.
Any other questions? Then I would entertain a motion.
I'll move we adopt resolution 2602 as stated.
Okay, motion by Mark,
Second.
second by Kenny. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. All right, we are officially kicking off our draft budget season. We will start with our fiscal year 2027 draft budget proposal for the Community Development Department.
All right, you guys excited? Everybody loves financials.
Totally.
Okay, so for community development, this budget's fairly simple. A couple of revenue line items and then a couple of expense items. Really, there's one revenue item, subdivision and zoning fees. So that's primarily any subdivision applications, zoning clearance applications that come through the city. You'll see that in the past fiscal year 26, we had just a $10,000 estimate on these fees. It's really hard to forecast how much we anticipate in revenue because we have no idea what applications are going to come through the door. It's highly market driven. We could have one larger subdivision come through for the year and substantially increase that revenue line. So it's really hard to judge, but a little while back, we did bump up the fee schedule for these fees for development review. There is a little bit of an uptick in that regard, but so we're kind of shooting for the middle. This year, we're already at about 40,000 in revenue, halfway through the fiscal year. So we're going to shoot in the middle here and just kind of estimate around 20 grand. Who knows? It could be up or down. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. There is still a grant line item for a TPA grant. That was a one-time revenue item from a UDOT grant. We use that for our general plan to fund our general plan. We don't anticipate doing another general plan this year, so we won't be going after that grant per se. But anyways, looking down in the expenses, you'll see wages, benefits have just a incremental increase on those. Dues we're actually going to bring down a little bit. We do have a second full-time planner, but he's in school part-time, and so it gives him free dues to the American Planning Association. So his dues are not included in that this next year. Dues to CMPO, that's the Cache Metropolitan Planning Organization. They invoice us once a year for their services. This last year, the invoice was a little over $2,200, so we anticipate that being fairly flat, but it's a little bit up from our last estimate from last year. Dues to Cache County, same boat, just a tiny bit increase there anticipated. And then the rest of the lines down throughout are pretty flat. So fuel repairs, travel training, supplies, phone, consulting, legal, software, admin allocation, all very flat. There are obviously some expenses that come in for the consulting line items. So if you'll see the line item that right now we're showing is $20,000. We're holding that for potential consulting needs after the legislative session wraps up. You never know what unfunded mandates may come from the legislature that we have to jump in and do some code adjustments. So we keep a little bit of a slush fund there. Historically, we haven't dipped too far into that, but you never know. We also have some implementation items with our general plan that may necessitate a little bit of consulting, but we'll see how that goes. A couple of things to kind of keep in mind that won't necessarily hit the community development budget, but are part of the community development department is we've kind of talked about, we've kicked around the idea of setting up a 2500 North Gateway facade improvement program, like a grant program, essentially where the city would kick in a little bit of money to some of those property owners to initiate an improvement to their facade or their frontage or landscaping, and we would match their dollars. So that's something we may look into, but that might come out of out of economic development funds through the CRA. But something that may be involved in community development this year. One other thing that's kind of out there from the previous fiscal year is our City Center Master Development Agreement project. As you may recall, we did approve about 35,000 in just a bucket of money to help with consulting costs on trying to push that MDA forward. There's still about $28,000 in that that we're still working with property owners, drafting a development agreement, and we'll see if we can get that to move forward. But right now, we think that that allocated funding will get us to the next step. Another item on that list below is some initial funding for gateway signage. We have this master signage study going to be moving forward. And we're hoping that through that study, we have a better understanding what signage we want to have in the future, but also identifying funding sources, whether there's grant programs or other ways to help pay for some of this signage. We'll kind of keep an eye open for that. But for now, we don't have anything allocated towards those future signs, but we know we have some gateway signs we would like to put up. We have easements for those signs. We just need to identify some funding. So we keep an eye open for that as we go through that master plan project. But does anybody have any questions about the budget generally?
I'm just curious, how do like the Cache County dues, how do they like municipal assessment, how do they calculate that? Do you know?
Yeah, they get us an invoice every year. It covers a couple of different entities. GIS is one of the biggest ones. We use the county GIS department for all of our mapping, and we use that every day, endlessly every day. It is an amazing resource for everybody. But it does help to pay for that department. It also helps to pay for Landis and Emily in the trails coordination. And that's amazing value for money. When we look at how much the city actually chips into that regional trails program, it's just a couple $1,000, but they've secured over $1 million in grants for the BST this year alone. So it's a great small amount that we can chip in for a large outcome. So that's wrapped into that line item with the county. But yeah, a couple of those services that they provide us, the recording fees to the recorder's office, a few other things in there.
One thing that's really nice about that GIS, and they do a fantastic job at the county. A city that's near us spends about $75,000 a year on their GIS software alone. So just keep that in mind.
Through the
Like they
county.
just decided not to use it?
They don't use the county, so they just use their own. So it's about 75,000 just in the software that they utilize
A year?
a year.
Why are they not using the county?
I don't know the answer to that question.
That's not an on the record discussion, Kenny. Okay.
I do have a question, but I'm wondering if maybe we need to discuss it in a different way. I noticed that the economic development, why can't I think of the word? The budget discussed something that I guess I thought would be on community development. It's the incentive for facade upgrades for 2500 North, the gateway. I'm just, I don't know who I'm supposed to be asking this question. I guess I was surprised it was not part of the community development budget.
We'll go over that. It's just,
Okay,
well,
that's,
good catch on that though, because we'll talk about that in the economic development, and it could go in either place.
oh,
very
I just wanted,
logically.
that, I was just surprised to see it. That was my, I was surprised not to see that.
Okay.
More of an FYI.
Okay. Any other questions on community development?
No, it looks great.
Okay. Then let's move on to building inspection.
All right. So if you pull up the building inspection budget, you will see our revenue for the building department is heavily based upon incoming building permits. So at the first revenue line of 210 is just a forecasted estimate on what we've done in past years versus what we have currently in the hopper for developments that are coming through, and kind of a projection onto permits that will be pulled. And so as you go down, there's plan check fees and state fees, and then our expense lines are basically just directly related with those fees. We have an agreement with Hyde Park City with an 80-20 split with all the building. With the building fees, we get 20%. Hyde Park goes 80% to cover their costs for employees and staff. And so this year, our projection is that we will be in the positive around $30,000.
Okay, questions for Jordan on building inspection? Okay, thank you, Jordan.
Easy budget.
Let's talk about economic development.
Sorry, I can handle this one. Jumping down through economic development, there's some changes that we'll probably do this year. If you look at wages and benefits, that was mainly covering a few interns that we had in the past. Our recent intern, Dylan, has done a fantastic job, but he's moved on to greener pastures. He's graduated from USU, and he has a job now. Ironically, he kind of switched his senior year over to do a lot of web design. That was his major, and so he now is handling a lot of our website upgrades. But that's a position that we'll probably have to fill this year. The intern, the individual that we work with on an internship basis, or the multiple individuals, what they do is they focus on, um, keeping our current businesses happy and helping them expand. That's their primary focus. They do a lot of other things. And what we mean by that is the few things that we do that no other city does. There's businesses that move here, 2 or 3 of them that recently moved here that are just shocked as to what we do. And what I mean by that is we have a business alliance. And so we'll have a business alliance meeting once or twice a year where we have all the businesses of the community come to the city office. We'll feed them lunch and we go over things that could help them in their business. The other thing we do is we literally just encourage all the businesses to reach out. There's no end to this yet, but they can put a promotion on our social media. So they coordinate those types of things. They do a visit a business where the mayor and a couple city council members will go and visit that business, sit down with them and say, is there anything we could do to help out? And it's amazing how much they appreciate that, and they learn a little bit more. We learn a lot about anything that we can do to help those businesses. And then a number of other things that we're doing just to help those existing businesses. That's the main intern's focus. They also help out with the line down here, which is professional and technical economic development. That is outreach. We hired Business Dynamics. They reach out to new prospective businesses. They both help each other, but that's the primary focus of Business Dynamics, is to reach out. So if you look at line 20, that is that expense on that line. The rest of these items are pretty much the same. Some of them are a little bit reduced. The other lines we want to look at are the ones that Emily pointed out, where the promotion. In the past, these things just came out of economic development, so we thought this might be best to leave it in there as the facade upgrades. What we're looking into is just trying to put some money and trying to pool some money so that individuals on 2500 North that have an existing business, if they want to do facade upgrades or other things, we'll put together a program where they have to come in and they have to qualify for certain things. They have to do certain things in their business, and then the city would reimburse them a certain dollar amount. Before we actually implement that, we'll have to go through the city council to figure out exactly the details of that program. But this would just be a play saver for a dollar figure that might go into that pot. Jumping down, the other one that has changed significantly, I tried to highlight these in red, the major changes, is Ice Arena sales tax allocation. That had reached around 60,000. That after 20 years, 25 years, and 2 5-year extensions, ended in December. So it ended in December of 2025. So that won't be part of that budget going forward. That will just stay in North Logan City's coffers at that point. And luckily, the Ice Center has gotten to a point with their endowment and some of their revenue where they're a little bit more self-sufficient and they don't need that from North Logan City going forward. So the budget overall has dropped significantly, primarily because of that Ice Center portion, and also the reduction in kind of that internship costs. If you look at that, that's the explanation for the change that you're
Alan,
seeing
with those Business Dynamics payments, is that just like a monthly invoice we get from Lloyd, or does he have like a per hour charge that we're tracking, or it's just a monthly?
Just a monthly invoice. Okay. And he's basically working. It'd be hard to do it around the clock on an hourly basis, because some days he's working 12 hours, meeting with people, going on visits, really just showcasing North Logan or going to visit a business and trying to bring them in. And other days, maybe he doesn't even have more than a few minutes here or there. And so it's just on an average basis across that. Good question, though.
Okay. Any other questions on economic development? Okay, let's move on to updates, water capital improvement projects.
Hello, it's me again. Just
It's
kind of
Jordan, for those of you who don't know him.
I'm Jordan. I'm in the back. One of the things that we did this week is through the mayor and through Representative Mike Peterson, we presented in front of the Natural Resources, Agriculture, Environmental Quality Appropriation Subcommittee yesterday for a project on the bench, including the power line, water line, and the Bonneville Shoreline Trail water line. Shout out to our fire department, but they've also been helping out on this significantly. And so we have now been moved into the FFSL. I don't know what that stands for.
Forest,
Forest
fire,
Fires and State Lands.
state lands.
Is what Chiefs told me. So we've been working with Ken over there on a new application, and with we call him LaCroix, but it's LaCroix. He's been also helping us out with that. So it's a promising grant of $1 million with a $450,000 match to make those two connections to really improve our fire protection on the bench. And then wall number 3 was poured at the tank last week, and wall number 1 has been fully removed and is now being formed up for its next pour in about 2 weeks. And then they'll finish the pillars. And then the treatment plant, the snake tank is full of water, and they're holding it for leaks right now, doing a leak test, and that will be fully operational in about 2 weeks.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
there you go.
Wait, it's snake tank?
We call it the snake tank because
And then we have a rattlesnake tank?
there's a
Let's
lot
get
of snakes.
creative.
We never did it. They were all numbers before. We thought that was dumb. Now everything's named Snake. So
Perfect.
kind of falling back in the same trap.
I was with you, Mayor. I was like, that he can't be talking about the rattlesnake tank because I know that's not ready to be
No,
filled. But
it's not. This is the snake tank.
Illustrating
we
the
call it that 'cause
problem.
it's just a baffle. So that's
How
where the
about
water
combo,
comes out.
Cobra 1?
It's a yes, Cobra One.
The
snake tank.
official name
Man, we
is
gotta
the
come up with
rattlesnake tank for the large reservoir. This other snake tank is a nickname. It's not an official name. It's the chlorine contact chamber.
We all call it snake tank
oh, that
We
makes
don't
sense actually.
because it's a chamber with baffles,
Yeah.
water snakes.
Yeah.
Through.
I get it.
Anyway,
Okay,
so yeah, there you go.
that's great news. Thank you, and thanks for putting in the time at the legislature.
It was a great time.
You're our best foot forward on that. So
They asked about you the whole time, so
Oh,
you should be
good.
proud you made an impression last time.
let's leave them wanting. All right, let's get updates on our civic center.
The real update is we are still working on fundraising. It's just a constant effort. And we're reaching out to a few different individuals, businesses, those that will be naming rooms throughout the community center. And then I think I provided that update. They're transitioning in. They'll start the operations soon. And then they are basically just gutting the old portion of the library, which needed it drastically. And then they're going through and they're updating that as we speak. It's going along pretty smoothly, though, considering all the issues with the old library. So that's going along as planned. And then they, like I said, they should be operational for the community center in the coming weeks and months. That's really just I can't tell you how cool that is to have that up and operational, maybe a couple months ahead of schedule. That's really cool.
Okay. And then reports from all of our city officers. Jordan? Scott?
On Planning Commission tomorrow, one of the projects that is going to be reviewed is a subdivision by the name of Beck Farm. And the reason why I mention it to council is because it will eventually make it to your agenda. This is located east of the canal, so it's about 1800 east and 2800 north. It's that larger parcel with the cursor. This has been a project that's been discussed for years and years with the Yonker family. And as we went through the general plan, there was some discussion about putting a Yonker Heritage Park on the park's master plan. And the Yonkers have wanted to preserve some of their family heritage as part of this family land, as part of any future development. And what they're proposing is essentially a by right development. It's a 15-lot subdivision, so the zoning allows it by right. There's no density bonus, there's no rezone. They're just developing their property, but they're allocating initially 4 acres for a legacy park on the east side of the canal, with additional acreage to be dedicated on the west side with future development down the road. And as we were looking at this, obviously the city, we're thrilled to get some open space to preserve some heritage, but there's also some points of consideration before the city takes on this perpetual obligation. And so we've been chatting about this in concept for many years, and we now formally have a subdivision application. And so the Planning Commission is going to be looking at the subdivision itself. The subdivision just has a parcel to be dedicated to the city right now in the subdivision proposal. But what we need to bring to the city council is a development agreement and a park master plan. That's kind of the anticipated park improvements that the city will install over time as we find funding. And so with that obligation being provided to the city to install those improvements over time, we wanted to bring that to council, obviously, because there's a financial obligation tied to it. But if you'd like to look at this project ahead of time, feel free to hop into the Planning Commission folder, review that subdivision, and then kind of keep your eyes open for the development agreement and the park master plan to come to the council. The Planning Commission will, because of the unique nature of this project, they'll be just recommending this project to the council, and then the council will go ahead and approve it formally as a land use authority. So it's kind of a hybrid. The Planning Commission could approve this because it's a by right subdivision, but because of that master park plan and development agreement, it'll still come to you guys for formal approvals. But kind of a cool project, really cool heritage that we're preserving, some open space. So it's fun to see this move forward. But that's one thing. The other thing on the agenda tomorrow with Planning Commission is another work session to discuss zoning options for 2500 North. So we'll continue that discussion. We have some feedback from our attorney on the idea of using an overlay, the legal implications of using that kind of a mechanism. And so we'll chat about that with Planning Commission and kind of weigh all the options before we start taking a more formal foot forward. But that's essentially what's on the agenda tomorrow. Do you guys have any questions about those projects or any other projects we're working on?
The question I have about the overlay, excuse me, the overlay, is it a positive or?
Yeah. So in talking about the legal implications, state code does not define what an overlay can or can't do, whether it's limited to just incentive-based options that a developer can choose to use. So you can use it as an obligatory overlay, where if you're in that overlay area, you'd be obligated to follow those requirements. So with that understood, it kind of feels like rezoning the property or using an overlay is essentially the same thing. There is still an option to do a hybrid, to chat about maybe using an overlay just for the undeveloped properties going forward. Or soft pedaling some of these ideas for some of the existing businesses while being a little bit more restrictive for some of the vacant properties. But we'll have to chat through how that looks and which tool to use. But yeah, we got some good feedback on that.
Good.
Okay. It's helpful. I like having kind of a heads up of what's coming our way from Planning Commission, so I appreciate that.
Yep.
Anything else? All right, Scott Bennett. Okay, Alan.
Just a few of the items coming up. Sorry, list of upcoming events. We'll go over that just really briefly. We went over Jane Austen, Craig Humphrey's retirement, employee appreciation lunch. Just put that on your calendars for March 18th. That'll most likely be here at the community center. We put the HSC there, but it's actually community center where that will take place. So just put that on your docket for that day. Then Easter egg hunt, the royalty pageant, soapbox derby, that'll take place on the 11th up there on 3100 North. And then if you are going to the Utah Spring Conference that we talked about, the league conference, just make sure you get in touch with Scott, make sure you secure lodging ASAP. And then we'll go over those other things in the coming weeks. Mayor's message schedule. So this for March, it'll be buzzy. So let's make sure we remind him about that.
Okay. Do we want to just say, like, does anyone know for sure that they're going to the league? I will be.
I should be going.
Okay. No pressure, Kenny.
Yeah, well, I mean, I
Some of us
seem
have to work
bow
for a
every
living.
time.
Okay, so at least you have, at least the four of us,
There.
so. Okay, Alan, did I cut you off? Did you have
You
other things
did.
to say?
No,
Okay.
sorry. I'm all done.
Actually, I'm kind of looking forward to my updates, just because I kind of just assumed that you guys absorb the information, and that's probably not true. So we'll try it this way. Legislators, Jordan kind of explained that one, but we're hopeful about that. And just so you guys know, we've kind of focused on the fire suppression or the fire aspect of these two lines up on our bench. But that's all part of, I don't know, four really major projects that we're trying to get funding for. So it'd be really helpful if we can, I mean, we kind of need all of them, but as we kind of tick off funding sources for each of them, it's just hugely impactful for North Logan. So that's great. ULCT, are you guys all receiving the legislative updates every
Yeah,
day? I think
those are
that's super helpful.
Really nice.
It's also super distressing sometimes to see what we're flirting with down there. Fire district, that's kind of taken a big turn in the last week. We do have a fire district meeting, a board meeting next Thursday, where we're going to be talking about what that looks like. That's shifted because both Hiram and Smithfield have gotten new mayors. They have pretty strong opinions about how the district goes. It's kind of looking like it'll be the Cache County funding that district. Um, and then we're kind of working out the details of how that district will be administered. There's a north end and a south end, and a voucher system where the county um, passes along um, flagged monies to go strictly to fire or what. But that's kind of what we'll be hammering out, and that'll be a big meeting next Thursday. CMPO, we elected a chair and vice chair. That's Mayor Alder from Providence and Mayor Cox from Hyde Park. That will be um, leadership for CMPO. Um, that's gone well. COG, Mayor Buse and I are chair, vice chair on that. I will be attending an executive committee or an executive meeting for COG. And we have some changes that we'll be proposing in that meeting to kind of just clean up how that process goes, make it an objective process. Maybe after 4 years of being in the COG, for me, there are just some issues that I think we can clean up relatively easy to just kind of make that process flow better. CWC, not much news there. RAPS, not much news. Recreation Center Committee. Kind of where that left off, again, with a new mayor of Logan City, that's been an interesting development because, as new mayors take over, they have different priorities. I had a meeting with Mayor Anderson on Monday to kind of talk about aligning our recreation goals. That went really well, and I'm optimistic about it. As you probably know, Nibley's kind of gone a little ahead of everyone else and created a South Fire District. Right now, my understanding is I don't think there's anyone that's officially joined that Southern District. Is that your understanding, Alan?
Yeah, they're doing an analysis right now. It's a South Rec District, sorry.
What did I say?
Fire, but it would be kind of the same for fire, but yeah, they're just analyzing and they're reaching out with surveys as to who's interested. They're going through a process right now to try and formulate that kind of
Yeah, so
before VCBO comes out with all their determinations.
yeah, so VCBO, they were kind of where we left off in our last steering committee meeting, is that we're kind of seeing where the county lands in all of that. I think we all feel like ideally they could oversee it in the same way that, just because that's what counties usually do. But we've kind of yet to see the county step forward in that way. So we're kind of waiting on the counties telling everyone else what their plan is. And then I think all of us are sort of still moving forward with the potential recreation center. So that's developing. those are kind of all my updates that I have. Any questions or input from anyone on that? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Emily,
Second.
second by Kenny. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, we start too, so.
Yeah.